Welcome back to Seek the Edge podcast with me, Kelsey Lensman. And everybody, it has been a week and a half, 2 weeks, this past week and a half, 2 weeks, in the best way possible. So to give you all context, about 2 weeks ago is when I launched our rebrand to Expand Your Limits. The whole rebrand for the company and the mission and the vision of really challenging women outside of their comfort zone. And we'll still have coaching, but we're also going to expand our events next year. Side note, because I also think people need people. And nowadays, I think so much is online that we need people in person. So we have events all around the country coming in next year. And that was that Monday. So then let's fast forward to that Saturday is when we had our fall all women's push-pull. So that's bench and deadlift. And each woman, we had one here in Columbus, Ohio. We also had one in Seattle, Washington. And then last but not least, one in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So we had one day, multiple locations across the U.S., multiple different types of women. In Rock Hill, South Carolina, there were a lot of moms and daughters doing it together. Seattle, Washington just crushed. In Columbus, Ohio, if you were there, you could feel the energy. And that was quite a busy week. Also on top of that week is I had my longest mileage yet for my personal goal of running 100 miles the end of December. And I had a 16-mile run on a Thursday and a 20-mile run on a Friday, and then our event on a Saturday. So it was a week in the best way possible. I'm so grateful for it. And then that next week, I got taken out. I think my body was like, Kels, all right, chill for a little bit. And I knew that was going to happen, to be honest with you, just because sometimes you just got to get stuff done and it's not pretty, but you got to just, dot the I, cross the T's to be able to pull off the best events and sometimes sacrifice other things. So then that next Tuesday, I was down and out for the count. I don't think I left my couch/bed until 5 p.m., which is wild to me. And that wasn't just getting tired. My body was just really run down and I was getting sick. And then finally I gave it that rest on Tuesday. And then that following day, Wednesday, I was starting to feel better. So I am back in action. I'm so grateful to be here with every single one of you and just appreciate the support. I had many people ask me, Kels, how do you feel like it went? How do you feel like the rebrand is? Like, how are you feeling about it? And if you know me, I'm a very, when I say particular person, there are a lot of things that, I overthink or not overthink, but overlook, and things that can slip by. But I'm really particular in making sure that the message was communicated right, and particular in making sure that people understood the vision for it and felt a part of it. And it's not just the Kelsey show, and it's not just, what my vision is, but collectively bringing just a movement of women stepping outside of their comfort zone. And I was so excited on Saturday night after our event, and like just the energy and everything. And I always look on social media after, because I always want to, comment back on our athletes' posts and just give them the reciprocated excitement that they had for others at that event. And just juice them up and just tell them how amazing they did that day. And it was so cool because I saw this in multiple athletes' posts. I saw that they use the terminology of, hey, like today I stepped out of my comfort zone. Today I did something I didn't think that I could do. Today I was so proud of myself how I showed up. I was so proud of myself for doing something scary. Today I expanded my limits. Like they literally use that terminology. And for somebody that has been working on this since February of this year and just kind of ideating it, to look on social media with our athletes, with the women that came together that day, to see our message reflected, it meant the world to me. And I did a quick prayer upstairs to say thank you, God, for just planting this vision in my heart. But then also thank you to everybody that has been a part of it and will become a part of it for that next step. So this actually segues beautifully into part 2 of what I'm going to do of behind the scenes or behind the brand of XYL. And to preface that, if you have not seen part 1 lays a lot of the foundation for this part 2. So go back, it's just the last episode, and it will give my personal entire story of where I was at, how I actually even thought of the idea to start a business, and how that's transitioned to not what it is today, because this is part 2, but what it was right before all the shutdowns happened, and right before, I'm not going to say the C word, but right before the C word happened. I don't want to get completely blocked off of social media here. And I left that podcast with saying that the second C, remember, there's courage, there's commitment. The second C to our values here at XYL is commitment. And that I had to not just be interested in making sure this business survived the C word, but I had to be committed. And there has been many times in my life, now actually is a perfect scenario for this crazy 100-mile race. In relationships, there's examples. In business, there's examples. When if I was just interested in this race or interested in making this business go forward, I would have given up, to be honest with you. I would have thrown the towel. I said, hey, you know what? I had a good run. Like I tried my best, but it just didn't happen. And because I wasn't just interested in it, because I was committed through it, I persevered through some really challenging, unknown, unpredictable, what's happening, it'd be easier just throwing the towel type of times. And that commitment is what I see in women. When I know they're truly committed, I know they're going to get there. When I think they're just interested in it, or they think they're committed, but I can tell a part of them is just still interested, I know that they're going to have challenges, and I know that they're going to question and doubt and hesitate. And that doesn't mean if you're committed, you don't question or doubt or hesitate, but you still have unwavering steps in a forward direction. Yes, you might be blocked for a little bit or challenged, but you're still persisting through. And so this fast forwards to right now this is post-COVID, or I'm sorry, not post-COVID. This is post just the shutdowns. This is when I transitioned everything kind of to online. I was just doing Zoom calls with my girls. And I remember saying, okay, Kels, if you wanted to prior to learn how to do things differently, and if you wanted to make a different and bigger impact, now it's sink or swim, girl. Now you don't have clients in the gym 12, 14 hours a day. Now you are not able to see anybody in person. So you're either going to let this whole business just die, or you're going to step up to the plate and you're going to figure it out. And you're going to figure out how to do this thing. And that's when I tried to figure out my own. And I was doing all the different websites and apps and training, like all the things. I was trying all the things out. I mean, I was probably working 16, 18-hour days then, just trying to figure out the best way to go forward. And this gives me a laugh. I remember during that time frame before I made a really big investment into myself and my business, I remember emailing Pelotonia. I don't know which terminology to use, so I apologize. And I emailed them because, remember, my background was sports medicine, and I was really particular about how people move, and I was really particular about making sure that people didn't get injured during training. And because of that, I knew a lot of their clientele, they were working out at home, they really didn't know how to hinge correctly, or they didn't really know how to activate their shoulder blades in a dumbbell overhead or a chest press. And so I emailed Pelotonia, and I was like, hey, my name is Kelsey Lensman, and I graduated from Ohio State in sports medicine. Would you be interested in doing or having a kind of Move Smart class, teaching your audience how to activate shoulder blades, or just knowing how to move well, which will then make your programs more effective? And of course I didn't hear back, right? Like, it's this little Kelsey from Ohio with this massive, multi-million, if not billion-dollar company. And it was funny because that is kind of how I operate and have operated and will operate, is like, you just shoot your shot. And a lot of the shots are air balls, and a lot of the shots do not get any response back, but you never know with that one shot. And so, like I said, I was at that time, I was kind of in the middle of just figuring it out. And I saw this, and I knew these people that led this program, and they were local here, and I knew a lot of people that were in it. But it was about transitioning your fitness business from in-person to online. And I've been following them for about a year and a half, 2 years now, kind of learning some things, but I'm also was a very much figure it out yourself type of girl. And I think there is value to that. But then I finally got to a spot where I'm like, okay, I'm my biggest barrier. Like they're doing something where all these people are getting crazy results. And it's not that I'm not smart enough. Like I know that I'm pretty capable and I'm a pretty smart human, but they might just be a step ahead that having somebody guide me alongside of that might be helpful. And I relate this to fitness coaching. When I hired my first fitness coach, is I remember initially being kind of discouraged about it because I felt like a failure because I couldn't figure it out on my own. And little did I know is as I was hiring that coach, he just fast-tracked my process. I just didn't have to go through so many trial and errors. And that was incredibly insightful and helpful for me. And so I translated that very similar to this stuff is, yes, I can YouTube stuff. Yes, I can figure stuff out on my own, but have they already done so much trial and error that they might know the more effective path? Not the easier path, but more effective path. And so I remember I put an inquiry in and I hopped on a call with them and they were asking me about my business and my vision and all the things, right? And I will never forget, I was so nervous to be on this call just because I didn't know what the next steps were. I had no idea how much it was. I didn't know. And on this call, they said, you know what, like we can really help you, or obviously they're selling me, but they really did paint a really good vision. And I knew their results from other people. So I did a lot of vetting prior to. And they said, yep, it's a 12-week program, 12-week container, and it's X amount of money. And I won't tell you how much it is just because I don't want to put all that out there, especially if people can understand like what I've done. But it was the largest chunk of change I have ever spent on anything. And what was scarier is what was in my bank account at that time frame comparatively, my business bank account, comparatively to what this number was not that different. Was not that different. And I remember being on that call and they said the amount and then they said their payment plans and all of this. And I just had the most gut-wrenching feeling in my gut. It was a gut-wrenching feeling. It was a similar feeling to when back in college I felt this gut feeling to start a business. And it was this gut-wrenching feeling of this is the direction. But man, is it going to be uncomfortable to make this decision. Man, is it going to be uncomfortable to actually invest this in yourself. And it scared the daylights out of me. I didn't invest on that call. I told them I needed to, and I don't necessarily, anyway, I told them I needed to think about it. And I truly did reflect on it. And I remember about a week later, I went to this beautiful cabin getaway. It was this big Airstream in a tree house in this beautiful backwoods, Ohio. It was for my boyfriend at the time's birthday. And I was supposed to spend this amazing weekend with him. Like we were supposed to go hiking and take Captain out and just have such an amazing weekend. And the Airstream is beautiful. It's a big tree house. Like how cool is that? And remember, I hopped on the call with that guy for this program about a week prior. And I remember I was so not just physically sick, like I had the worst like knots in my stomach because I was so nervous to invest in this program. I knew it was the direction that would really help me get to that next level, but I was so incredibly nervous to invest this amount of money that there were so many sleepless nights on that trip. There were so many reasons why I wanted to talk myself out of it, or reasons why I wanted to not do it, or reasons why I wanted to say, oh, well, I can just do it later. I tried every hypothetical situation in my brain, and it kept coming back to, Kels, your next level is on the other side of this discomfort. Your next level is on the other side of you making a massive bet on yourself. Your next level is on the other side of you getting out all these dumb excuses and moving in the direction at which you don't want to move in because you're scared, but you know that you need to move in. And I'll preface with you all, this does not necessarily mean to invest in every program, right? Like do your research, do your vetting, but I will also say to you, we have many women that actually hop on the call, and it is so scary to invest in yourself. And when I talk to them about our coaching and our program, and it's not just the cheap $20 app, like our coaching is a good amount for a reason, because we care and we really want to give you a good value. And it's one-on-one, like you get that. And I empathize with them because I've been there so many times in my life of the, oh shoot, this is a big investment. Oh shoot, can I pull it off? Oh shoot, am I going to get the results from this? And so that entire weekend, this beautiful getaway in the woods, I just woke up in the middle of the night, honestly, with not full-blown panic attacks, but like this, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? And so finally I got back from that trip, and I invested in myself. And I talked to a few mentors that I have, and I said, you know what? Like, you're only going to get this far doing exactly what you've been doing. You're not going to get to that next level just trying to figure it out. Like, you're not failing if you invest in this, but at the same time, you know that that next level is on the other side of this yes. And so I invested in myself. I was so nervous, but I will tell you what I did with that amount of money, with that amount of stuff on the line. I showed up. Every call, every resource, every opportunity that this program provided, I was all in. I was like, I am squeezing every penny out of this program to make sure that I'm successful in it. And that's what a good amount of money will also do, is sometimes people need to have more on the line. That's why, and I'm not obviously anti low budget apps. We're going to really come out with one in a good way, and it can be beneficial for some people. But for some people, they need something on the line to stimulate action. How many people do you know that they're like, oh, I got this app or this thing, and they do it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then they fall off. Like, you probably know a lot of people like that. And what I've realized through that is, like I said, I put my money where my mouth is. I put my money where my mouth is. And I said, okay, Kels, like, you're showing up for this. And so in that program, I learned a lot about offer structure and marketing and systems and all the things that I heard separately but didn't know how to combine together. Once again, very similar with my nutrition coaching or when I hired a coach there, I heard about proteins, I heard about carbs, I heard about fats, but I had no idea how to effectively pull all the things together. This was the same thing just in business. And so as I was going through this program, I launched my very first ever fully online to help somebody nutrition training and mindset and one-on-one coaching. I launched the Transform for Life program from my Health Academy. I just chose a name. I had no idea what I was doing. The Transform for Life, say that 10 times fast, Health Academy. This was a one-on-one offer where you worked one-on-one with a coach. You worked in nutrition and training and mindset. And this this gave more value because we were able to help somebody in all aspects of their life get to the goal that they have of either leaning out or body composition or building muscle. Like, this produced amazing results because we were able to really dig in. And I have nothing against, obviously, in-person training. I'm going to own a facility one day and we will have that there. But there's only so much you can do with somebody in an hour. Yes, you can make that the best hour of their life and you can really try to instigate change there. But it also, what happens in the other 23 hours really is what gets somebody to the place that they either want to get to or not. And what I was challenged with when I was in person you come in for training, but I also knew that your nutrition was really off. I also knew that mentally we needed to work through some confidence things or limiting beliefs that you had that we didn't have the capacity to work on in the model that I was in prior. And so this, yes, it was online, but we were actually able to help people a lot better get to the goals that they had because it was more comprehensive. It was more all-encompassing, which was incredibly important. And so this was a one-on-one offer. We were helping people and doing really great work. I hired an assistant, more of like a back-end administrative, and then also another coach. And this is a more of a side tangent. And I loved the people, and I was so grateful for the people that joined me in that time frame because I was still trying to figure out what honestly I was even building. but they were loyal. They were just incredible people. But hindsight 2020, also hired really fast. I hired way too fast because I thought that I quote unquote needed to, when really I didn't necessarily need to. I just needed to take it slow and steady for a little bit versus trying to blow everything up in a month. And I think there's definitely something to kind of sharpening that axe and allowing yourself to get consistently good over occasionally great. And that's something that I, going back hindsight 2020, wish I would have done differently, is instead of hire so fast or try to blow up so fast, is really take it slow and steady and build that foundation over time. And relate this to your fitness journey. This is what I also would advocate for a lot of women out there, is instead of trying to get results in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, think about a year. Think about a year and a half and implement those slow and consistent changes that will elicit the best results a year from now. So that's what I wish I would have done. But anyway, so we were helping people one-on-one. We were really able to give good value to them. And I remember there was one day, and I was doing some more hybrid programming. So I would be doing a lot of online, but a lot of the women that were locally, they would also be in the gym too with me. And so one day, as they were in the gym lifting with me, there's about six women all with me. And we were doing a 1 rep max bench press. And I will never forget, there was one woman that about 2 years prior, I used to go in schools and help the teachers train. And I would do an after school, like little workout program for the teachers. And there was one woman that came up to me one day after school, 2 years prior. And she was just walking next to me and she was like, Kels, she goes, I just don't do this whole fitness thing. I just want to let you know, I don't do this whole fitness thing. I might sit out on some things. Like, it's just, this is just very uncomfortable for me. But I was like, or she was like, but I'm here and I'm gonna do as much as I can. And I said, don't worry, like, we'll take care of you. And I'll help modify and all those things. And so fast forward, this non-fitness girl turned into a fitness girl, and she was doing a 1 rep max bench press with 5 other women staring at her. And I loaded the bar a specific weight. I think it was maybe 85 or 95 pounds. And she looked at the bar and looked at me. And looked at the bar and looked at me. And you could just see the fear of God in her eyes, being like, there is no dang on way that I am doing that weight. And I said, take a deep breath. I said, trust me. I said, you got this. And she went to the bench. She sat down on the bench. You could tell she was shaken. She was nervous. I said, take a deep breath. Know that you are strong. Know that you are capable of this. And so I was behind her. She put her hands on the barbell. She matched her thumbs up. She boom, pulled her thumbs around. And she said, 3, 2, 1. And I helped lift it off. So as I helped lift it off, she was holding this weight. And she slowly brought the bar down to her chest. And then boom, she pushed that bar up like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. And she popped off the bench. Everybody goes crazy. The women are just like clapping, excited. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that. That's so amazing. Like just going. The whole gym was just popping. Like you could just feel the energy and vibration. And I remember saying that specific day, I said, we need to create an environment for women that challenges them, one, outside of their comfort zone, but to show them that they are stronger than they ever could imagine. And I remember saying it that day, and I was just joking around with some of the women of like, oh, we should have an event. Like, we should just have a lifting event. And so I was once again joking around with our in-person women, but I put it out on social media. And I will try to find this Instagram story because it is hilarious. And I take a quick Instagram story video, and I said, hey, just an idea, just a thought. If we created an event for women, for them to max out and bench or deadlift or squat, would you be interested in it? And I put that Instagram message out in the world, fully thinking nobody would take me up on it. Like fully thinking, oh my gosh, they're not going to take me up on it. And I put a poll, and it was like a yes or a not really. And about 2 hours later, I looked at the poll, and I had 80 plus people say, yes, I would be. And you think at that moment, as you're listening to this, you're probably like, Kels, you're so excited about that. You have 80 people saying, yes, I would want to come to an event if you had an all women's lifting event. And in that moment, I was like, oh shoot, that means I actually have to do it. I thought that nobody would actually want to do it. So I'm like, that's just a crazy idea. Like, put it on the back burner. But when I saw that response, I'm like, wait, okay, that's amazing. People want to do it. But how in the heck do you start something like that? Like, I don't know how to do a lifting event. I don't even know how to throw an event. Like, what are you talking about? And so that was the beginning steps of our all women's lifting event. And we were going to have it that next December of 2020. We were going to have our first all women's lifting event. It was going to be a push pull, a bench, and a deadlift. And then we ended up pushing it back to that next spring just because of some shutdowns and stuff. And it just wanted to be a really good environment. So we pulled this, and I'm so grateful for the team that I had at that moment, because we pulled this all women's lifting event. It was at the gym that we were at. We had t-shirts made. We had about 22 competitors, I'm pretty sure. That first event, we had no idea what we were doing. I remember the photographer and videographer that we had. I was so excited to get some content for it and just some media for it. And then he texted me that morning, and he's like, hey, I actually can't come to your event. And I was like, dang it. So then we're able to get a different videographer and photographer. But that day was just electric. Like, that day was, it lit a fire in my soul. And I saw these women and I saw these girls be so scared, do it anyway, and show themselves what they're capable of. And I said, we need to continue this. Like, we need to create this, cultivate this environment, cultivate this community for women. And we decided to do it then the following next fall. And so during that time frame, I was doing the one-on-one coaching. We had a team. I was also doing these all women lifting events. And you would think, with the impact that we were making and the great work that we were doing, because we were putting so much good out in the world, that I would just be on fire, so fulfilled, so excited. And I was, to an extent. I love the women that we worked with. But there still felt like this restlessness inside of me. I would wake up, go train, pop on my computer for 12, 14 hours a day, spend a little bit of time with my significant other, and then I would go to bed. Like, it was just like kind of rinse and repeat. And during this time, when I felt this restlessness and I felt this kind of discontentment in a way, I was like, this doesn't make any sense, because I'm making more money than I ever have. This doesn't make any sense because I'm having the business that I've always dreamed of, even though obviously it can continually get better, but it was profitable and we were moving in a good direction. And I had a team and I had great people on my team, but it just felt like this misalignment, like something just felt off. That is the best way that I could describe it. And I thought it was a business problem. So I tried this program, or I tried this marketing thing, or I tried this aspect of it. And no matter what I tried or what I invested in or what I did, this gut feeling that there was something else more continually kept coming up. And it was frustrating because I couldn't figure out what it was. And I realized, I'll fast forward, then I'm going to pull us back, but I realized it wasn't a business problem, it was a me problem. There was nothing wrong with the business. It wasn't a marketing problem. It wasn't a lead generation problem. It wasn't a systems problem. It was Kels, there's something deeper within you. And I remember about a week or a year prior to really acknowledging these feelings, I was watching a documentary, and it was called The 50-50-50, where his name was Iron Cowboy, but he also goes by James Lawrence. Actually, he's my running coach, and I just got off a call with him today, about an hour ago, which is wild to me. But I watched this documentary, and he did 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days, which is absurd to me. Absolutely, almost not even almost, it is unfathomable to me. You're telling me you're doing 50 Ironmans, a full marathon, 112 plus mile bike, a 2+ mile swim in 50 states in 50 days. Like, what? And he did it to raise money for charity. And I remember I was so incredibly inspired by that documentary, and it had nothing to do with just the overall outcome of his 50-50-50. It had everything to do with him showing his really high moments, him showing his really low moments, and him showing every moment in between of the highs, the lows, the dips, the drops, just every moment in between. And I remember being so inspired by it because I was like, well, if he can do that, like, what can I do? And I remember having this idea of like, well, how cool would it be to do 48 different fitness competitions? So it could be anything from a half marathon to a powerlifting meet to an Olympic lifting meet. And it was originally going to be in 48 weeks. And I was like, oh, you could do an event on a Saturday, right? Spartan race on a Saturday. And then I could speak at a school for young girls on like a Wednesday, right? And really instill that confidence in them. And it was just a fleeting idea that I had after that documentary. And I think I shared it with my significant other at that time. And as I sat on that idea would just pop up, just in obscure moments. I'd be going to bed and the idea would pop up. I'd be taking Captain for a walk and the idea would pop up. I would be in the middle of a sales call and that like little idea would pop up. And as I was acknowledging it's not a business problem, it's a Kelsey problem, I remember listening. This would have been about a year and a half after this. I remember listening to this podcast from him, Iron Cowboy James. He was on the Ed Milet show. And I remember listening to this podcast and he was talking about pulling this whole campaign together and just really living life and doing what's not necessarily considered normal and just trying to inspire others through his story. And his story, and this is for him to share, not me, but he comes from struggling, or his wife signed him up for a 5K, a turkey trot 5K, to now then he was doing 50 Ironmans in 50 states. And so it just was such a testament of, I mean, obviously we all have gifts in different ways, but it was such a testament of he wasn't just born being LeBron James out of the womb. Like, he did not want to do a turkey trot. He struggled through his first marathon. And then now look at this guy and he's doing crazy things, raising so much money for charity through something that he wasn't necessarily good at the beginning. And I was like, that's the message that I want to spread, is because so many people think, well, that's just Kels. Like, she's just, she's very athletic. She can do it. And I'm like, if you only knew how I saw myself of, yes, I've been athletic, but I haven't been this freak athlete. It's because I pushed myself physically and mentally to get to new levels, which is why I can do the things that I can do. And I don't have anything special that you don't have. And I was like, man, like, it would just be that would just be so cool to inspire other women and have them break the lie that they believe of themselves, that they can't do it, but other people can. And I listened to that podcast, and then I remember about 2 weeks later, it was just this, once again, just this dissatisfaction, this frustration, this discontentment deep in my soul. And I remember walking Captain for about 4 hours that night. And I was just, do I do it? Do I not do it? Pros and cons, and thinking through and just wrestling with it, to be honest with you. And I got home from that walk and I wrote a prayer out on my little Bible or my notepad. And I said, dear God, if this is something that you want me to pursue, and I don't necessarily condone this type of prayer, but it worked for me in the day. I said, dear God, if this is something that you want me to do, please give me the biggest sign in the world that I should pursue it, and make it so obviously clear that I cannot misinterpret it. Don't give me this little like tap on the shoulder of, oh, you know what? Like, yes, go this direction. Like, smack me over the face with a sign that I literally cannot, that I can't deny. And I never had this happen, but the next morning I woke up, I went to work out like I always go and work out. And for some reason that day I chose to listen to a podcast over music, which is very rare for me. Usually I'll always listen to music. And I just scrolled aimlessly, clicked the first podcast, put it in my ears, and started training. And it was this podcast, it was the Ed Milet show, and he was interviewing Colin O'Brady. And Colin O'Brady was talking about his big missions that he would go on, quote unquote. And these missions that he would do some type of physical challenge to raise money for a charity and just really help inspire and drive a really solid message going forward. And as he was talking about it, it was a spitting image, a mirror of what I wanted to do with Mission 48. Like it was, oh my gosh. As he was talking about it, I'm like, yep, I get that. Yep, I want to do that. Yep, that's exactly what I want to do. And I just remember, I was like, this is interesting timing. Like, this is kind of odd. And then I remember I was back squatting. This would have been 30 minutes later after I started. And he said this one quote, and I was sold. I was completely sold in this. And he said, so many people live in the 5 and 6s. Life is good, but not really great, but also not terrible. Like it's just rinse and repeat 5 and 6 over and over and over again. And he said, so many people want to go for the 9s and 10s, like the really epic pieces of life or the dreams that they have, but they never actually go after them because they're so afraid of what if it becomes a 1 or a 2. And I heard that as I was ascending from a back squat. So I had a lot of weight on my back, and I hear that so many people want to go for the 9s and 10s, but they're too afraid because what if it becomes a 1 and a 2? And I said, that is exactly why I'm not going after it. My real dream is to not just the business, not just helping people, but Kelsey Lensman's deep inside God-sized dream was Mission 48. It was this nudge that kept coming up for years that I wanted to push down because it was scary and it was unknown. And that was Kelsey's dream. But I was too afraid to pursue it because I had no idea how to. I was too afraid to pursue it because I had no idea the steps to take. I was too afraid to pursue it because I was afraid that I was going to fail. And that there's no playbook for something like that. But I heard that quote and I said, I was mid-back squat and I said, Kelsey, you're freaking doing this. Like, you're not living in the 5 and 6s. And that's what it felt like I was living the past 2 years of. We were doing great work. We were helping a lot of women, but Kelsey the human, not Kelsey the coach, not Kelsey the significant other, not Kelsey the daughter, not Kelsey the whatever other label that I had. Kelsey the human, like to her core, felt that something was off. And I remember hearing that quote and I'm like, Kels, you are no longer living in the 5 and 6. You preach all the time to other women to go after it and go get it, but you're settling for the 5 and 6 right now. And so I made that decision in that moment. I said, Kels, you're freaking going for it. And that was where Mission 48 was born. And I gave myself permission to actually go after the thing that I've always wanted to go after, to actually pursue something that's deep in my soul, that scared the crap out of me, that had me question if I could even do it, that had me doubt. I have no idea if I could. But I said, you at least have to try. And so that next year and a half, 2 years, I remember initially, because I couldn't distract myself over my business. Like I still had to show up a lot in my business and the women that we coached. And so I gave myself permission to Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I would be able to work on Mission 48. Just Wednesdays, not multiple days a week, just Wednesdays, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I gave myself permission to block that time out because I knew that I still had a lot of other commitments that I had to follow through on. And I couldn't just say, oh, peace out business. I have this crazy campaign I got to focus on. But it allowed me to like take a step forward. And it seemed very digestible to me. It seemed very like, okay, I can make some progress in that time frame. And so I just brain dumped. I was on a legal pad, a yellow legal pad. And I just brain dumped all the things I thought that I would need to complete this. An RV, sponsors / money to do this thing, a charity to support, physical fitness. I need my fitness to be at a really peak level. I need to find competitions and events. Like this laundry list, I need to figure out what I need to do with media. I mean, this was probably a 200-point checklist of things that I needed or thought that I needed. And that scared the crap out of me. I'm like, where do you start? Like, this is a massive, massive list. How do I start this? And once again, I went 9 to 11 every Wednesday, and I would just start tacking some things off the list. And I'm not going to give all the entire, my entire game plan away because this is number one, what I'm writing the book about of how I created this. but this is also what I am going to be talking about in next podcast, is the framework that I've developed to go from a crazy idea dream to actually doing it. But I just started tacking things off. And I also started asking people who have done what I've wanted to do. So like the Iron Cowboy, I shot my shot on Instagram. I shot him a DM, told him what I wanted to do. Did I get a message back right away? No, and I wouldn't have expected that from him. But I just kept shooting my shot. And there was another guy named Devin LeVake, and he did the New York Marathon. He crawled it on his hands. He did a bear crawl for the New York Marathon. But he raised money for charity, and he had sponsors. And I'm like, I have no idea what to do with sponsors. Like, I don't even know how that world exists. So I tried to get people in my ecosystem or in my environment that I could really learn from. And so then that next January, I invested into a program just to help me understand all the different sponsors, help me understand, just get people that have done what I wanted to do. So once again, I'm trying to pull people in my world that I can kind of stand on their shoulders with and be like, okay, what have you done that's right? What have you done that's wrong? And then I can learn from them versus repeating their mistakes. So that whole entire next year, this would have been 2023, I was putting together Mission 48. I was doing our coaching. We did some of our fitness events or our like all women's events. And I was calling sponsors. I was calling states. I was calling gyms. I was calling communities. Like I had this whole crazy thing decked out. I had a whole spreadsheet and I was just shooting my shot. I would try to contact 20 gyms, 5 different sponsors, and 5 different people from the media in different states. And it was relentless work. And so long story long, I ended up pursuing Mission 48. I ended up switching it from 48 weeks to 48 days. And so I orchestrated 48 different fitness competitions, everything from a half marathon to a powerlifting meet to a Spartan race to a mountain biking event in 48 states. And the kicker is in 48 days. And we did this to raise money for a charity called Rocks, Ruling Our Experiences, where they do 20-week programs in schools for young girls to talk about things like confidence and body image and just really great information that I think girls now need more days than ever. And so I pulled this whole thing together, and we left September 1 of 2023, and we got back October 18th of 2023. And through that pursuit of Mission 48, there were a lot of things that went right, and there were also a lot of things that went wrong, and a lot of learnings that I had to pursue, a lot of learnings that I ended up getting from that. And that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself, of the trip and of the learnings that I got. But as I came back from Mission 48, I just saw things differently. I thought I would want to come back and move out to Montana as fast as I could out west and blow up my online business and just live in the mountains and have an online business. I thought that that's what I would want to do post Mission 48. And then when I really got back, what I realized on that trip is the states that were the best, it wasn't necessarily in the best locations. Like it wasn't just in all the big cities where the most epic events with so many people. It was the states that sometimes were the smallest, but they had the most incredible in-person community, which is what changed everything. And I realized through Mission 48 how much value I place on actually getting people physically together in person. And yes, I love the online. Y'all are watching this because it can be online and because it's media, but I don't think it will ever replace people meeting people. I don't think it will ever replace people coming together. And I also valued how so many women pushed their limits. And as I came back, there were a few things when you have that long trip and it's a pattern interrupt of your life for 48 days. Like no day is the same for 48 days. And I came back just with some deep knowings of there's some things in my personal life and there's also some things in my business life that I had to make changes with. And that scared the crap out of me because I really cared about the people that the decisions would affect. And I was honestly kind of between a rock and a hard place of trusting myself and trusting my intuition and trusting God and trusting the path that He has for me versus staying comfortable and just keep persisting down the route that I was going, that it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't great. And so this would have been last year, guys, so end of 2023, beginning of 24, is I made some really difficult decisions early this year in my personal life, in my business life, and I felt like I just needed to regroup everything. I feel like I needed to, when I say scale back, it doesn't mean that I, stopped accepting clients or anything like that, but I really needed to get everything back together. I needed to regroup, reground everything, and that did mean scaling back instead of up. So instead of just blowing my business up post Mission 48, I really wanted to regroup it and reground it. And then in April of this year, this actually was a blessing in disguise, but I got a notice that a year before we submitted for our trademark for EmpowHER Fitness, but in April we didn't get that trademark. And so that trademark was denied. And at the time I was bummed, and at the time I was like, what do you mean? Like, all of our events are called EmpowHER Fitness and our coaching is called EmpowHER Fitness. And I was a little frustrated with it. But I remember saying, okay, I'm not going to build a brand off of a trademark that we don't even have because I'm going to have to change it anyway. And that's when the ideation started. What do I name it? But also, well, what am I building? Like, do I want to, what is the mission that I'm leading? I've never felt really aligned with just marketing fat loss. Like, lose 10 pounds here, 5 pounds here. That's a byproduct a lot of times of what we do, especially teaching women how to fuel their bodies and everything. But I've never felt fully aligned with that. I've never felt fully like, oh, like that's what we do. And so I probably threw around 20, not even 20, probably 100 plus names. Do I name it this? I would chat GPT some ideation with names. And I remember seeing different brands, and I remember seeing just what I was just ideating, and nothing really landed. But I realized in that time frame that yes, I love helping women achieve better fitness. Like, I love coaching women in nutrition and training and helping them pull the pieces together. But also what I love, and also with such a big passion of what we actually do, is challenging women to reach new levels and challenging women to step out of their comfort zone and challenging women mentally to show themselves they're capable of more. And I was in Boston with my family, visiting my brother that lives there. And I was sitting with my dad. I would always work for a couple hours in the morning before we'd go do stuff. And I was sitting with my dad, and we were just messing around with names with like X to start. Because I thought it was really cool to start with a brand, like an acronym that said X something something. Like it just looked really sleek in it. And as we were ideating, we would just throw different names around of like expand or exceed and all these different things. And then he finally said, what about expand your limits? And I said, ooh, like, okay, let me sit on it for a little bit. And as I sat on it, I was like, I actually really like that, because what I do is, and you'll see this in the logo actually, in the L, is there's 4 different sections of the L. There's a big section, a smaller section, then the small section. And I base a lot of the speeches that I give and the talks that I give to teams and to businesses about the comfort zone, the fear zone, the learning zone, and then the growth zone. And I realized that what we do actually is help women break beliefs of what they're capable of, help women challenge themselves that they're capable of more. And through Expand Your Limits, that is actually what we're doing. We're expanding what you think your self-imposed limit is. You think it's this, but it's not even actually close to that. And when I think of expansion, it's something that's becoming more of themselves. It's something that's becoming bigger. You're expanding to more facets of you. And this is where the third C comes in to our entire brand, is community. It's about bringing women together through our XYL events, bringing women together and building those communities. And that has been what's been built behind the scenes for a long time. And that is, as I was ideating this new brand, I'm like, okay, yes, I love our all women's lifting events. I want to keep them. They're great. But like for me, not that I'm the best lifter in the whole world, but that's no longer my discomfort. Like I can go and train and strength train and it's fun. Like I love it. It's so fun. But I don't still get that like butterfly in my stomach. I don't still get that like challenge that I used to with it. And so as I was ideating with it, I was like, you know what? This is where we need to expand our events. Like this is where for some women it's lifting. So we're going to keep our lifting events. For other women, for me like right now, it's running. Oh my gosh, is that challenging? Tricky, hard, challenging. And so I'm going to expand into more running and endurance events, right? And then I was like, well, some of them it's outdoors and rucking events. And then last but not least, it's resilience and cold plunge and breathwork events. And so this is where our community comes in of like, yes, we're going to have an amazing community around the country. Yes, we're going to have an amazing training app that will help prepare you for events or just learning how to lift for the first time. But then also there's another leg of bringing our community together, of not just being behind a screen and doing this on your own, but actually being in community with other women, stepping out of their comfort zone to show themselves what they're capable of. And as we were building it, that's where this podcast came in. And I was like, Kelsey, it's time to actually put out there what you've learned and what you've been working on with the book and the back end and everything. And so that's where it's at. And last but not least, this is where the 4C comes in, and it's confidence. So we have first with courage. We have second with commitment. We have third with community, and we have last with confidence. And this is where I really want to get into our crew and our women, that confidence isn't just given to some people and not others. It's built. Confidence doesn't just come from what you're able to do. It's about, for you, unleashing what's already been inside. And that's why I also am pursuing this 100-miler, is because if I want to challenge others to do it, I first need to do it too. And that's where the mission and vision and our coaching and our membership and our events come in. And I'm so excited to show you all what we've been working on. And I finalized all of our 2025 events. I finalized all of our just things that are going on next year that I cannot wait to show you. And so I want to leave off with this, because this is a hefty podcast here, but I want to lead off with this. And this is the XYL manifesto. This is something that we are going to say at every single event for you to tap into something greater to yourself. And side note, if you made it this far, I'm also releasing our XYL merch. If you are on YouTube, you see me repping this shirt. I'm releasing our merchandise, our t-shirts, our sweatshirts, our gear next week. So be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to leave you this manifesto, and I want you to take a moment. I want you to think about it and really allow this to sink in, to hit home with you. So the XYL manifesto. I believe that I am capable of so much more than I can even imagine. I am strong, resilient, and persistent. I test my limits, not accept them. I believe failure is only feedback and is not final. My belief is built, not given. I know my goals are bigger than me. For when I pursue greatness, I know making an impact beyond myself and inspiring others to do the same. I'm not crazy, I'm called. I expand my limits. And so if you're a woman ready to take yourself to the next level in your fitness, maybe that's you becoming the most fit version of you and really being able to get the body composition or strength that you would desire, or you're in the fitness world, but you're ready to take yourself to the next level, this is your home. You found it. We are persistent, we are consistent, and we are ready to challenge you to a whole nother level that you have within yourself. So everybody, I love y'all. Thanks for hanging with me. It's the last Behind the Brand Part 2, and let's keep rocking into next week.